All right. I had one more thing I was going to talk about. This is the one that I found probably most disturbing, and it's not anything new. And it's something you guys have all seen too. But sometimes you choose to take a chance and try to interact, maybe bring a little peace to a situation the best you can to help try to be a voice of reason between two sides, especially two political sides, because you just want to see people stop fighting with each other. So the next thing I want to talk about is this whole idea that it doesn't matter where you stand politically. We still need to learn how to treat people like fellow humans, for crying out loud. It's so discouraging. You might see somebody protesting. If they're being peaceful protesters, you don't have to agree with what they're protesting about. But if they're being peaceful and they're practicing their right to free speech in the way that we're meant to do it, we need to be grateful that they're exercising the right that we at least still currently have for now. We don't know for how long, but we have it right now. We don't have to agree with them, but to call people names and to rip them to shreds and talk down to them and act like they're little children, treat them as if they're subhuman, is not going to do one darn thing to get our point across to anyone. So you got to ask yourself this. So, I'm talking mostly, this is the kind of garbage you see in threads under some kind of political post. And people will rip each other apart, and they're not afraid to do it because they can hide behind the safety of their screens. And a lot of these people are Christians, or at least claim to be. What, by tearing people apart and calling them names and treating them as subhumans, how is that getting your important point or message across? Especially if you are a believer. What kind of example are you setting of Christian love? So, for example, the other day, I'm usually pretty quiet anymore. I used to be very, very vocal about politics and my stance, and I'm not saying I never talk about it. I try not to have that on my channel for a few reasons, because I know there'll be plenty of people that would disagree on both sides, because I don't have a side when it comes to the right and the left. Obviously, having more conservative type values and more Christian type values, I'm going to have a much more in common with people on the right. But that doesn't mean that I agree with everything that the Republican Party is doing any more than the Democrat Party. Oh, as you guys know, there was a big protest at least all over the United States. And there were some people in our small town that decided to participate. And there was a picture of them, and they were standing on the sidewalk. This is all I was able to see. They were holding up their signs, and let me tell you, there was a couple of their signs I could totally agree with. I mean, it looked to me like everybody was behaving. They're exercising you don't have to agree with it. They were exercising their right to free speech. And their comments under that post from other locals was just horrendous. And it was coming from both sides, people ripping each other apart. So I thought, I just got to say this. So I went in there. I just want to remind people, right? I just want to remind people that if you feel like what you have to say is important, screaming at people and calling them names, all that's going to do is cause them to turn you off. Anything that comes out of your mouth at that point is there's no value to it, because you've already decreased the value of your words by the way you treat people. So I prefaced what I was going to say on the fact that I don't get behind either one of these parties. I'm saying this because I want people to I don't want people to make an assumption about what I have to say next. And because my comment was directed at everyone, and as lovingly and kindly as I could, I just expressed these feelings that, we really need to treat each other with respect, even if we don't agree. Because at least people are still exercising the right to free speech, even if we don't agree with what they're standing for or against. I got ripped apart for that. Most people agreed with me from both sides. But I also had those people from both sides, some far left, some far right, that were ripping me apart and making assumptions about me despite how I prefaced my post. One guy was really just totally asinine and started telling me that I supported this, that, and the other thing, all things I do not support. And so one of the things I pointed out to him, I said, basically, he was doing exactly what I was trying to fight against. I said, you made an assumption about me. You made a whole bunch of assumptions about me based on the fact that I'm not on your side. I'm not on the other side either. I say, here's an example. I'm 100% against abortion, but you didn't know that about me, did you? But you just made an assumption. And I said, now how did your assumption, how did your comment help further any message you had to share? And that right there is the point I'm trying to make. Not only is it important for us, even if we're not believers, even if we're not Christians, just as Americans, for crying out loud, if we cannot express kindness and respect to each other, even if we absolutely do not agree, how do we expect them to ever hear our side? There was a time where people used to sit down and talk about these things and still be able to walk away and be friends, even if their views were totally opposite and they never could come to a common ground. But what we're seeing out here is people treating each other like animals. No, worse than animals. You shouldn't even be treating animals that way. And it's horrible and it's disheartening. But yeah, people from both sides. Another person from the other side. So the one guy was from the right. This other woman was from the left. And she's like, that dumb phrase. It's dumb to me because people use it without even thinking. And that is, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. I'm like, oh, so you're making an assumption just because I'm not, I don't wear the blue or the red gang colors that I don't stand for anything? That's a pretty assumptive comment. I have plenty enough that I stand for. Why do we have to be forced into a right or left paradigm? Why? We shouldn't have to be. And when we start pigeonholing people and assuming just because they don't agree with us on maybe one point that, oh, they're entirely a bad person or they believe all this, again, we're going to get nowhere in anything that we have to share. No matter how valid our points may be, no matter how important and maybe even how incredibly true they may be, I know that when people talk to me that way, I'm like, I don't care what you have to say from this point on because you can't even treat me like a human. Nothing you say has value to me. But the person that can treat me like a human, even if everything about what they believe is in total contradiction to what I believe, if they can sit down and have a good conversation with me and treat me like a fellow American, a fellow human being, I will listen to them. And you know what? Sometimes I actually learn something. It doesn't mean that I'll change my mind, but I might actually learn something that helps me to understand a person's point of view and realize I need to be careful about the way I judge others. Now, there are plenty of good people out there that don't do that. And I will say that. I've had far left liberals and atheists that have been very polite and kind to me and appreciate, not just on my channel, but locals, appreciate the things I share, even though they're not afraid to say, well, I don't believe in God and I have a real hard time with that, but I really appreciate this about you. And they're never rude about that's fine. They could share that. I don't mind. My faith is not that weak that I can't handle hearing that. But they treat me like a human being. And so I don't mind reading and hearing their opinions about things that maybe would disagree on, because maybe, just maybe, there's some value in what they have to say. And maybe there's even a little bit of truth there that we're not seeing because we're being forced into this box with these blinders on that we can see nothing else. I guess my main point is that just as human beings, regardless of your faith or lack thereof, regardless of the political party you may cling to, regardless of whatever country you're from, we can all find a common ground and we can love and respect each other despite all of it. And yes, it is very hard to respect people who do not respect you. So, you got someone coming and screaming in your face. It's like, okay, done with you, buddy. I'm done with you. It also means I don't have to retaliate in kind. That's the hard part. I will admit. I had to hold my tongue a few times with some people. I'm like, okay, nope. I'm becoming just like them if I say what's really on my mind right now. I got to stop myself. It's like, Lord, give me strength. Give me the right words to say, because I know if I open my mouth right now, or my fingers, as the case may be, something's going to come out that will be wrong. And it's not going to validate any point I make. It's just going to make people go, see, she's just as bad as everybody else. I mean, we're all humans, right? We all feel passionately about different things, and none of us wants to be treated that way. And it's hard not to come back with ugly words when we ourselves have been spoken to that way. That's where it gets the hardest for me. So, I'm not afraid to admit it. And I definitely make mistakes and let things, and I'll have to go back and go, oh, better delete that. That was bad. Usually I try to, not respond in a hurry, but maybe start to, and then look at it for a bit and go, yeah, I better take that part out. What's the old saying? Treat people the way you want. Oh, yeah, Tammy. And where does that come from? It comes from scripture. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's where the golden rule comes from. It comes straight from the Bible. So if you want to be treated with respect and you want people to hear what you have to say, you need to be willing to do the same for them. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for coming in, supporting me. Even if you don't agree with everything I have to say, I don't expect yes men. I don't even want everybody to be yes men. How can I ever learn anything new? Right? And just hanging out with me and being encouraging to me from all sides, it means a lot. It really does. And I enjoy this time that I get to just be real with you guys. So anyway, I just want to say thank you again to everyone. I appreciate you coming in. I love you all, and take care, and God bless.